Remix. 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 Remix.
What it do, nigga?
What's happening? I'm earning.
Nothing much. Josh isn't here, so I don't know what the run sheet thing says.
You don't? I think I
went
could.
to sleep so late yesterday. So I didn't pre-look at it like I normally do.
Well, if you need the run sheet, I think I can find it.
Oh.
But
How
I
are
heard,
you, G?
I heard you running from the running sheet. That's what I heard.
I just think, what's order? What's a schedule?
I mean, in these days, in these streets, in our political condition, I think we need a little bit more structure and order.
Sure we do.
Structure. Shout out to my Stoner Rebellion and all my other geeky people.
Josh says that run sheet so quickly. I actually blame it on the new Google system update stuff. Like now when you look at a link, but it isn't one that you own, it doesn't show it on your main page anymore. I have to go look for it, and I gave up on that one.
Man, what you been up to, man? I know we've been talking a little backstage, but yeah, what you been up to?
I just been living, being black.
How's that working out for you?
It's going okay. I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff going on. I did see a sitting Congress member say the little AKA's call out. He's definitely not an AKA, and he's definitely a white man yesterday. So that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him saying years ago that there's a black woman that lives inside of him. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Wait, what? No. Back up now. Wait, what?
Congressman Steve Cohen, it's like this white man who's like a congressman here for a long time. And now he has like real competition. So this nigga been sending out emails every week. He's been sending out all these recaps we've never seen before because Justin Pearson's running against him. And Justin's got a lot of ground on him. So now all of a sudden he's just so involved in the community. He's such an active Congress member. And he was at this event yesterday and he saw some good lady in pink and was like, yeah, And I was like, and we all turned around because we're so confused. I said, damn, man, I wasn't recording. I would have busted his ass out so quick. But like years ago, he said that, he gets the most support from black women because there's a black woman living inside of him.
I mean, that could come out really bad if he's a white man, what white people used to do. So,
Yeah.
That could be twisted a little.
It could go many ways.
Yeah.
But it was cool. I got to hang out with some content creators yesterday. There aren't like a lot in Memphis, so it was like two of us.
I mean, politically wise, because it seems to beg the difference that everybody's a content creator right now. So you're saying like political and serious?
There's not a lot of Memphis folks who have large followings that are content creators, not just political. I mean, in general, like there's one person who does like fashion, lifestyle stuff that has a big following. She's over like 100K or so. And then me, and then Booker Square, Elizabeth, she lives in DC, but she's from Memphis. And she has like almost 1 million now. But other than her, there really aren't many others. And there's this girl from the Shade Room that lives here. But
well, that's why y'all got Glorilla. You don't need nobody else.
You're so funny. Have you been paying attention? Okay, because I've been watching the rap shenanigans. So one of the niggas that I'm dating be in the comments. He be in the comments of like posts and stuff. And so he'll call me and talk about it. So he was talking about how
there's
Huh?
Not our comment.
What
the comments. You said our comments or just in the comments?
He'll be in people's comments, like not here. I'm saying like the comments of like posts and stuff. And he was talking about how Pooh Shiesty and Glorilla got a song coming out. And everybody under Pooh Shiesty comments was like, Yeah, and we know that lyric about you waiting to get out of jail was about Glorilla, and we know y'all together. And y'all make such a good couple. It was so weird. And then they're under Glorilla's comments, and they were like, "We just think y'all would look good together," but they're not as aggressive. And I was like, "There's no way I would have seen any of this if he hadn't told me about it." It's so wild. And they're saying that she's dating that Brandon Ingram dude until he got out of jail because Pusha had a lyric talking about you can be with that lame nigga till I'm back home. And I was like, what? And I don't be in the rap nigga beef, but now I'm in the rap nigga beef because you done pulled me into it. And I'm trying to see what's happening.
Oh, I ain't thought Ingram ain't no rap. He ain't no rapper. This is an entertainment nigga.
About Pusha.
Yeah, but he, it got to be a rap beef if he's in a beef with another rapper.
Oh well, the entertainer beef.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Because
is that real though? Is that real? Like
people just speculating. And he just be sending me comments of like different people speculating. I'd be like reading them and I'd be like, they are going deep. Like they creating whole storylines. Y'all don't know nothing about these people.
Yeah, I think it's harder for me to even know where these rappers are from now. Cause I don't even like if I heard Pooh Shiesty talk right now without seeing him, I wouldn't know who that is. Cause I can't imagine.
He sound like a Memphis nigga.
I mean, I know how what that boy name is, the one who well, I know how Dolph sound. I know how he sounded, and I know how what's the other one who used to date the rapper Meg Thee Stallion, big tall dude used to date Meg Thee Stallion from Memphis.
He's not from Memphis. I know you're talking about the
what's his name?
Party Fontaine.
Party. Nah, I'm talking about. Well, maybe he used to date him. I don't know.
Partisan isn't from here.
He around Gotti all the time. Gotti signed him too. He signed him and Glorilla. Moneybag Yo. There we go.
Moneybag Yo and Glorilla. I mean, Megan Thee Stallion did not date.
Oh, I don't know. I thought he date one of them. You sure?
They didn't date. I think you're talking about like Tory Lanez.
No, I'm talking about Moneybag Yo, but he dated wrong.
Maybe they did. Did they have a song together? Did I miss it?
I don't know about that now.
The point of my story is,
as far as I know,
them niggas is not. Well, Pooh Shiesty is from here. He live in Texas, but he got a thick accent. And I mean, Big 30 lives here still.
I ain't never heard of that person in my life.
Okay, so I don't know a lot about Big 30. I'm not gonna hold you, but I do know enough to know that he basically is like a close friend, mentor to Pooh Shiesty or whatever. And Pooh Shiesty don't be listening to him, and Pooh Shiesty talks about his music how he don't be listening to the advice Big 30 gives him.
See, Lord said that they were dating.
Oh, the more you know. And this is how you see how detached I am from entertainers' lives, because I don't know anything. I don't know tea. The only tea I know about is in my life.
Sips tea.
You're so funny.
Yeah, but yeah, Lord said he's about to be in for a second. He needed he gave us a head start so he can walk us down.
I did look at the run sheet, and there's a question here about what is your hot take / predictions for 2026?
I'll let you go first.
Damn, no, I gotta go first.
Because you're the one.
I think one of my hot takes is that Klay Thompson and Megan Thee Stallion are definitely married and have been for a little while. She doesn't come across to me like the type of person who would move in with someone again, because I think she had moved in with Partisan, or her and Party was like just always around each other. I don't think she would do that again without like being in a committed relationship, meaning like married. So I do think that they either got married or are getting married. What's my other hot take? I think that we're probably going to some kind of war this year, maybe in the next 4 months. I hope they draft all the white people. Chidi Macha, I know people have been saying this. Chidi Macha said no midterm elections. I think there will be midterm elections. I think they're gonna have the midterms, but I think that there's gonna be something that happens after the midterms of them trying to like stop the certification or something similar to like the stop the steal shit they made up last time. What else? I think that Senator's gonna continue getting snubbed at these award shows, even though it's the best movie, music, all of that. Actually, I do agree with Kitty Maja. I think the US dollar will collapse this year. I think there's a big chance of that. Let me think. What else? That's all I can think of right now.
I was trying to think of something. I think something really big news is going to happen, and I don't want to say it because then I could be held responsible for it.
How can you say your prediction came true if you don't say it?
Well, there's going to be something that everybody's going to be like, oh. But if I say it, then it said that I. And then, I think
someone said that South Carolina's trying to pass a bill where you can't vote unless you're registered with a party. So they want to do closed primaries or like closed primaries, basically.
Then there's only certain parties you can get busy with over there anyway. So I don't know.
Has like Working Family Party and other stuff had enough what is it called? Have they had enough votes in an election to be considered parties there?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Stono. I ain't been down there in a long time.
I'm screaming.
They might be. It seems like
a lot of places do have closed primaries.
Yeah, they seem like Charleston seemed like it been getting some influx of working family folks.
Oh, this nigga that's like slightly in love with me won his special election for city council. That was cool.
Do what now? Somebody did what? Who loved what?
To this nigga that's slightly in love with me won his special election for city council in South Carolina.
Oh.
That was cool. I was shocked. Not shocked that he won. I'm shocked about the voter turnout because there wasn't a lot of people. But I mean, that usually happens in a special election.
So if you win, you said he won or he's running?
He won.
And this is one of your people on your roster?
No, I think he thinks he's on my roster.
Oh, okay. Well,
Josh is cracking up in the back.
I'm just saying he get on your roster, then I don't know if you're gonna have a roster no more. You're gonna be a high profile first lady.
That nigga a city council member. Hell no.
So he on his way to the top. That might be
You don't even have 2,000 followers on Instagram. And you think he finna be the next thing smoking?
If he got elected, the Instagram don't matter.
It's a no for me. It's a no for me, dog.
You ain't trying to get political power. No, I'm joking. That's not funny.
I'm not interested at all. Shirley said Amber about to be the first lady if he eventually runs for mayor. I don't think he will run for mayor. Actually, I think he'll run for state rep. But I'm good.
First city council. Amber, see?
Not do it for the people. Y'all are hilarious. He's actually too far down there to be considered on the roster. But he cool as hell. Like, I mean, not a bad guy.
Normally you don't give directions, digital directions to your roster, and you just gave digital directions to your roster. Somebody's gonna look up and they're gonna be like, "Oh, this the dude," and now they're gonna be able to visibly see the dude.
I don't give a damn. That should tell you where he is on the roster. He's not there. Christina's not here. Like he's not.
That's bad.
I'm not scared. Shit.
Bring Lord up. Bring our guy in there.
Lord, why you couldn't bring yourself up?
I was waiting for an invitation to join the conversation.
Oh my God! Not you a vampire? You need an invitation in. Let's remove
you. You out here all day, Lord. Why you can't come in?
Yeah.
Right. You've been back and forth.
You've been back and forth all day.
You didn't saw me hit my Irish jig with those white boys. You should know. You ever see Josh in the circle dancing with some white boys? I've definitely been taken. I've definitely don't let me in. I'm gone.
Now somebody said Amber a security risk. No, that nigga a security risk.
Good morning. Good morning.
What's up? How you feeling, bro?
Doing pretty well. I'm happy we doing the check-in, but we only got a little bit of time because we got a guest coming today. So y'all want to jump into some news? Any chance?
What time is the guest coming?
9:00.
Directly. They coming directly.
Mm-hmm.
We got time.
Oh
no, let's get into some news. We can get into some
news.
I'm saying we got time for news.
Definitely. And let's set the map. Peace. Good morning, everybody. Friday Remix Morning Show. Hello to the infamous chat. How y'all doing? Me, Geechee, Amber. Covering some news. So, y'all, I actually, first of all, before Camilla gets here, we're going to have to get this pronunciation right. So I think it's Kawsachun News. Kawsachun News. Geechee, you have a pronunciation on that one, or... Hey, you can help me out there because I'm struggling a little bit.
You did it. You got it.
Did it? All right. Well, that's what we're going to try, and Camilla can help us out with the pronunciation. So we've been talking a lot about organizing, student organizing, the youth. We talk about them all the time on this platform. So thought it'd be really cool to highlight something from our affiliates. Sovereign Media is another thing I think you should definitely follow if you haven't already. Some great work out of there. So let's hear from some Venezuelan youth, people who are socialist in Venezuela and not Vic Mensa's mysterious friend.
Josh, you and that filter is not working.
It's not. I'm frozen again?
You be freezing.
Yeah, I think it's because of my internet connection in this room. So let's play this and I'll try.
We got solidarity.
My bad.
Dar un poco sobre lo que es las redes sociales acá en nuestro país. Ha sido un punto muy estratégico para nosotros, ya que hemos llevado a cabo una guerra cognitiva hacia nosotros mismos en desarrollar falsas noticias o fake news hacia nuestro país. Una de las guerras cognitivas en las que hablaba vienen a través de las redes sociales, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, en la cual nosotros hemos proyectado videos, enlaces y le estamos dando un vuelco a esas falsas noticias y dándole una esperanza a todas esas personas que nos ven más allá, de que acá en nuestro país estamos bien, estamos felices y estamos tratando de proyectar ese progreso que a través de mucha organización, esfuerzo y constancia de todos los venezolanos hemos podido lograr. Una de las noticias falsas que manejan es que si hay terrorismo, que si somos un narcoestado, que si hay huelgas, que si hay guarimba, que hay cola, que totalmente falso. Totalmente falso. La verdad es que a partir de 2018, 2017, que fueron unos años muy duros, más que todo para la juventud, una juventud que en realidad se quedó progresando en su país y otra juventud que emigró a través de esa escasez que hubo por el bloqueo. Acá lo que hubo en Venezuela fue un bloqueo de servicios, de alimentos, de productos de higiene personal, el cual nos hizo a nosotros encontrarnos en una situación muy difícil, incluso a perder un poco de ese desarrollo de la parte de adolescente, porque nos hizo trabajar desde muy jóvenes, nos hizo mejorar, nos hizo valernos muy jovencitos, mientras que esa parte se quedó aquí progresando, otra parte tuvo que emigrar para darle un mejor bienestar a su país. Sin embargo, acá nuevamente podemos ver que ha habido un desarrollo progresivo en tiendas, en supermercados. Acá hay una maravilla, incluso podemos observar en nuestra ciudad, está totalmente llamativa. Los invito acá a Puerto La Cruz, es maravilloso. Bueno, gracias a nuestro presidente Nicolás Maduro porque hizo un esfuerzo extraordinario para recuperar esa producción que se necesitaba en el país, porque muchos de nuestros alimentos y muchos de esos productos venían de exportados. Hoy en día se hacen acá en nuestro país, hoy en día nosotros mismos lo desarrollamos, nosotros mismos lo trabajamos, lo cosechamos, lo producimos y lo distribuimos a distintas comunas de acá en la ciudad. El presidente, a través de distintos planes y proyectos comunales, ha podido fortalecer ese tema productivo, ha apoyado demasiado al emprendedor, a ese que tiene un pequeño negocio. Han habido muchísimos planes y se ha podido ver ese crecimiento en nuestra ciudad, incluso a nivel nacional. Ya nosotros contamos con nuestros mismos productos y se ha visto claro el avance que se ha hecho acá. Lo que tratan es de demostrar o querer aparentar de que acá en Venezuela, que en nuestro hermoso país, existe una desesperación total en el caos y decide totalmente lo contrario. Acá disfrutamos, acá podemos ver a muchas mujeres haciendo ejercicio, tenemos en el Paseo de la Cruz y el Mar, bailoterapia, ves a las personas muy felices bañándose. Si van a las playas, eso está completamente repleto, la gente feliz, compartiendo con su familia. Se nota la alegría y se nota la esperanza, y es lo que nosotros proyectamos, esa guerra mediática que quieren colocar de que Venezuela está mal. No, Venezuela no está mal, Venezuela está bien y está próspera gracias al esfuerzo constante de nosotros los venezolanos, de nosotros los jóvenes, de querer mejorar a nuestro país, de querer ser mejor cada día y de querer progresar de alguna u otra manera. En todas partes puedes ver la felicidad desbordada, incluso en las comunidades podemos ver las personas compartiendo, debatiéndose. Es totalmente falso lo de violencia o tratar de crear odio hacia acá.
Damn, that was thorough. What y'all thinking?
So a couple things. I feel like so this argument around you can't know a thing if you're not living in a thing, right? So I saw earlier with the lady Benjamin, I forgot her name, the lady who always walking around with the paint going into the Congress and stuff like that. It's Benjamin, I don't know, online. But she was talking to a Venezuela lady, and she was like, "You're not from where you from? You're from here. You're from U.S. You can't talk about Venezuela. You're not qualified to talk about Venezuela." So I always think about that, and there's an argument that, well, you can not be from a place and know more about the political reality or conditions or the geopolitical perception. You can know more than somebody who actually lived there. It's possible. There's an argument that sometimes people might even over romanticize a country on its socialist path or whatever. It's like, oh, everything is great or whatever. Like, so I guess again the perspective is not really important as much as you can kind of verify. Like, most people are not going to do research and listen to all the different perspectives and then make a decision. Most people just heard about a thing, do a thing. So
not just doing 6-7.
Hey, I'm just saying. So yeah, I think that's what I was thinking about. And then when you do get the chance to visit these countries and you see that the majority of the people have left for a particular type of political thinking, like you can appreciate it more then, because now you know, like, oh, just like there's, like, as we say, a few of us on the left in the U.S. and it's a small minority. When you're in a country like that, it's very well like the majority think like that, but it's still gonna be some conservative people there. So I don't know. I just was thinking about that, and then lastly, I was watching a video and it was talking about all of the factions in the Palestinian resistance. And sometimes, like, you might know about one, but then if there's like parties and formations, all these different things, the majority of the people is there. And I mean, you know, and then I'll say to the people who can hear a Venezuela in Venezuela talk wild shit about Venezuela, That's because it's really a democracy over there, and they do got some right wing niggas over there too, and they all get to have a say. So
Yeah. Amber, I saw that comment. I don't know if you started, but just a summary for folks because that was in Spanish and you might not have been able to see the screen. This was from Sovereign Media, and I'm messing the name up again. Kasachin News, and they have Venezuelan youth leader Rebecca Losada, a member of the youth wing of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, describing her generation's battle against false information disseminated through social media. Rebecca explains how a cognitive war continues to be waged against Venezuelans as the country works to further advance its recovery from the illegal U.S. economic blockade, since this whole pretense was about legality and narco trafficking. Let's talk about the fact that the U.S. is doing and has done and will continue to do illegal things in this country. But yeah, that was excellent. Geechee, my thing on lived experience is it's kind of like it's a yellow flag sort of situation where I actually do value lived experience because I think European thinking, specifically rich white men, tend to discount that so that they can talk quote unquote objectively. So I don't want a Norm Finkelstein situation where I'm the white man and I've read a lot of books so I can talk better than Palestinians who are in armed struggle and actually speak the language, right? So lived experience does matter. It's just when it goes out of alignment with the analysis. And I say the same thing as a yellow flag, not a red flag. But when we see a lot of these sheriffs, these black Republicans who have white spouses, right, on its own, that is not necessarily a problem. But when we add all of the context of your lived experience, right, you're in the Republican Party as a black man, then your white wife becomes relevant. So lived experience becomes very relevant in the right context. So that's what I wanted to say. And yes, so many of the psych war is about other people who have a unique lived experience, often leaving the country, versus I think what she framed here, people who stay and want to contribute. And it doesn't seem like she's guilting people who left because of the blockade. It seems she understands and properly blames the U.S. At the same time, she does point out there are a lot of Venezuelans, and we're going to talk about today, Venezuelans who look like us, who stayed and are actually building the society. So I thought that was cool. Amber, how about you?
Yeah, I liked hearing directly from people who were there, and like what their actual lived experience is. I think it's important to center people's lived experience. I think it's also important to talk about like the real narrative because I do think that like the US and like US imperialism gives you these talking points of like how, these people are suffering and it's because of this leader and he's doing all these bad things. But then she's explaining like, yeah, there was like some rough periods of time, but our leader made sure to bring production here to move it in-house so that there were jobs so that people were able to get like the resources they need, which I think is really good information that I really couldn't find anywhere. Like other than watching this video talking to someone directly from there, I really couldn't find that info anywhere when I was like researching. And it's really hard to find like accurate information that I feel isn't just using like the same regurgitated talking points.
Yep.
I think it would be interesting to see somebody in environmental psychology able to do some like research, as I guess evidence-based research, to kind of like dispel the arguments around our struggles with analysis and lived experience. Like I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like, as you said, like Western media has like propagandize or make us acculturated to a particular thing. But yeah, I would just be curious to see like the arguments from those people who kind of know for a fact that there's some validity, but then not a lot of validity in objective analysis as it relates to people's lived experiences. So it would be some academic stuff.
Yeah. For me, when I study identity politics, me and definitions, I love where the word came from. So I'm like, where did this term come from? Why are white people hijacking it like woke? All of those things. And so I read Combahee River Collective Statement. It has one line that's very reactionary that a lot of people like to point out. Some people who haven't even read it, most of the white left hasn't read it, so I don't even know the line I'm referring to. But the general analysis in that piece was excellent to me. I actually struggled to see why it's so vilified, other than it's Black, it's radical, it's feminist, all those things. And the main thing I take from it is that you have to understand your identity and how it was constructed, and then how that's connected to other people. Sounds like historical materialism to me, which makes sense because they explicitly say in that statement that they're socialists. Now, again, we could talk about the individuals and their trajectories and all of that, but it is a socialist piece of theory that is often ignored. And then it just says, yes, identities are constructed. They come from a place. So like you said, an environmental psychologist, to me, it thinks of the nature versus nurture question, but everyone's got to look at, like, your identity didn't just come out of nowhere. Even discussions of disability, for example, one really interesting story I learned about was how in, I believe, ancient Sioux culture, not ancient, but pre-colonial Sioux culture, they used to be able to speak different languages. And because they had different languages, the way that they would trade was with sign language, Sioux sign or plain sign, I believe. I could be wrong on the background, but the idea was that disability in their society wasn't limited because they naturally spoke with sign language across cultures. So this idea of, like, where does a disabled person look like? How are disabled people treated? How are sick people treated? How are insane people treated in these societies? All of that to me comes into identity politics, because today, when we see Crip Hop Nation talk about crushing wheelchairs and things, disability in capitalism, disability under, colonialism looks completely different, and he explains all those things. So that's, to me, how I see identity and all of these points, is that you have to say, how did the identity come to be? It didn't just fall from the sky. And I think that's how we get into all these discussions about Afro-pessimism and Blackness, and where did Blackness come from? Is it this ancient force that's been around for a long time, or is it a new kind of construction? So
let me respond really quickly to Tony Hardy, who maybe is at least one person that might have that I might have spoken a way that they didn't understand. So yes, I've studied Fanon, and I do think towards African freedom. That's what it is, towards African, where you will read Fanon's resignation letter, and you could see how his work is, like, very rooted in such a thing. So what I wasn't asking for back in history. I'm talking about today's people in that environment, the young people today. I would love to see some of their work or research and kind of saying that to dispel some myths. But yes, you can read Fanon, but unfortunately, outside of this channel, not a lot of people picking up Fanon. In fact, I don't think people outside the channel even know who Fanon is. So that's why I said what I said. It's not that. I'm pretty sure everybody here read Fanon and studied it.
Yeah, Cuddly Mike told us we got to read our Fanon. So when we get the Bill Maher,
he said Fannin now. Get it right.
Bill Maher Fans Fanon Study Group.
You got that Fannin. You got to read that Fannin.
I appreciated that. We also have Dr. Layla Brown, who's a scholar on Venezuela and is a part of Black Liberation Media's collective. Unfortunately, Layla couldn't make it today. She'll probably be joining us soon, maybe on another remix day, but they got our professors locked down with classes, teaching youth and all that. So Layla and Jared can't join us on Fridays, but Layla left us with a pretty cool resource to prime us for today's conversation. So I just wanted to start there. Again, Amber has pointed out a massive flaw in the US media war, as this youth pointed out to us, which is we don't have a lot of good information or places to go immediately, but we circulate that among this channel. So one of the things is the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective that both Layla and then another guest who's coming soon were a part of. So
Amber has what? My bad. I had to let my dog inside.
I was saying that you've asked correctly, like, where are the resources that share this information? And it's hard to find, but I said that in our network, we tend to have them. So this was from Dr. Layla, who couldn't join us today, the U.S. attacks on Venezuela, from the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective. So I just had to subscribe to them recently as well, because I didn't beforehand, but I just wanted to hear some background that Dr. Layla laid for us today. And then Camilla will join us as well to add on.
Significance of the Bolivarian Revolution, like what what is the Bolivarian Revolution? What is this historical significance? What is the challenge it poses to U.S. imperialism? Leila, would you want to start us off there? And then folks can jump in. And please remember, before you all speak the first time, just introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'm Leila Brown. I am professor of cultural anthropology, assistant professor of cultural anthropology, Africana Studies, and Women's Studies in New England. I'm also a member of the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective, and I'm also an organizer with the All African People's Revolutionary Party, GC. I did my dissertation research on Venezuela. So I've been traveling back and forth to Caracas and more specifically to Barlovento, to Higuerote, and other Afro-descendant areas in Venezuela since about 2011. So it's been about 15 years that I've been going back and forth. And so I wanted to, in terms of the question about the sort of historical significance, I think one, I want to sort of reaffirm this, the horrific nature of Nicolas Maduro and his wife being kidnapped by the U.S. government, and to talk about a little bit about maybe why that is in a broader sense. So obviously we know Venezuela has one of the largest oil reserves in the world. And so obviously at the base of this attack is a desire to sort of regain control over the oil reserves. And thinking historically about Venezuela, so oil was actually nationalized in Venezuela in 1976 under Carlos Andrés Pérez, who was no hero, right? Carlos Andrés Pérez is also, he was also in leadership in 1989 when the Caracazo occurred. And the Caracazo was a massive set of uprisings where largely the working poor, Afro-Venezuelans, indigenous people experienced sort of overnight tripling, quadrupling of sort of basic staples because of World Bank and IMF imposed economic, because they imposed economic, why am I losing the term? But they imposed economic sanctions. Thank you. At that time. And so when the Caracazo occurs, a couple years later, Chavez actually leads an unsuccessful coup, which he's in prison for, but this actually really sets the stage for the Bolivarian Revolution. So the Bolivarian Revolution becomes successful in 1998. And it's also, I think, really important. A lot of times people talk about Nicolas Maduro as he didn't have the kind of campesino, worker, laborer history that Chavez did. And people always talk about Chavez as kind of charismatic strongman. But Maduro has this long-standing labor history. He organized labor workers to push the Bolivarian Revolution forward. And there's a reason why he was in Chavez's camp for so long, but also as Chavez's foreign minister. Under Nicolas Maduro's leadership, they broke ties with Israel. They reestablished economic and diplomatic ties with, I think, more than 15 or 18 African countries during Nicolas Maduro's tenure as foreign minister. And so Nicolas Maduro also has a long-standing sort of track record in supporting, obviously, the Bolivarian Revolution, but I think also for me as a person who thinks about Venezuela's impact on the African diasporic world, there's also very important in terms of renormalizing relationships with and creating South-South relationships. So like one of the last kind of political acts of Chavez right before he died was this assertion to the South-South Summit, which was taking place in Equatorial Guinea at that time, that talks about the importance of the connection between Venezuela and Africa in a general sense, and I think in the African diaspora. We also see the reality of the Bolivarian Revolution kind of doubling down on that through a number of programs, one of which was Petrocaribe, which was a program that allowed, that created microloan programs throughout Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, which is, established diplomatic ties and really allowed a number of countries who have been the victims of imperialism and colonialism to kind of start to get their foot sort of out of the ground. Another program, which is called Funda Ayacucho, which is kind of a educational diplomatic program, which is a program that allowed students from Latin America, Africa, and the Caribbean to come to Venezuela and study things like education, medicine, engineering.
As always, links and sources in the show description. Go ahead, Geechee, you already nodded your head.
No, I'm just saying Layla is so fucking dope, bro. Oh, dope in all types of ways. I think so I just got one thing, and so I wonder how us in the US or who organizes in our organization, I wonder how we have conversation around like private versus public and how it relates to people's like material conditions in everyday life. Um, because along with some people not being able to like even understand and actually even support Trump's kidnapping of humans from a country that they were elected to lead. Like there are people like there's jokes being made like like I saw one joke about, I can't even remember now, but something about like gas and oil, sorry. They hired they locked up Diddy and Maduro both over oil. And it's like maybe you might really laugh a little chuckle, but it's like, yo, this is where we fucking at, bro. Like this is where we at. Like this is how people are thinking. So I wonder if apart from how it should impact people who live in the US, apart from the morality and humanity Layla had to actually lift up at the beginning of this, like, because niggas ain't really talking about that. Like, even last week we talked about, oh, this nigga wearing a Nike sweat, and then like his wife getting physically assaulted, brutalized, and we talk about what he wearing, but not she wearing. But I just wonder, like, again, nationalizing the oil. What does nationalizing the oil mean versus what does privatizing the oil, and how the U.S. like, what does that mean, and then how that relate to you and your situation. Like I remember having a conversation yesterday about one of the elders who work with the youth. Well, one of the people who work at the program for the youth for one of the buildings, and we were talking. They saw Trump on TV right before the kids came in, and we were talking about something about the weirdness of the private company from Nashville that owns this building, and then the nonprofit that gets some of that money to service those same people that they're taking their rent from. And I was going to have like a private conversation, private public conversation, because I'm just curious how we helping people understand like the gravity and what's actually happening and how it relates to them. And I'm curious if y'all have any of those conversations, especially as a policy organizer, Lambo, but as a educator, Lord, I'm curious.
I haven't heard from Amber in a second. As an educator, I got to call on a person and being quiet in the back of class. Go ahead, Amber.
I think that we don't have a lot of those conversations because a lot of people don't have like the knowledge or the depth to talk about them. And I feel like also people have conversations in ignorance more than they should, which only makes it more confusing. Which is why I just be shutting up and letting people like tell me about something first before I like respond, because I think it also makes it harder for people to believe you if you talk about something out of ignorance and then you have to come back and like backtrack that. It does more damage, I think. And even though people don't like for someone to tell them that they should go read this thing, you really should go read this thing. I hate to say it. I for sure don't want to read it, but I will tell you that you do have to sometimes just go read the book.
Yeah. I think you have to read the book, watch the documentary, which Keontae, whatever the documentary that you said was really good on this, please drop that in the chat. But generally, yeah, like it's just no investigation, no right to speak, as Dre says. So how are you investigating? For me, and we talked about this in the NBROC panel earlier this week, but there are multiple ways to make a connection for people. And obviously, we're talking about connecting the local to the international, because yes, people do not necessarily have the expertise, the background, even the time to get briefed on all of this information, but they do tend to know to some degree what's going on in their immediate experience. Now, I'm not going to say everyone knows what's going on in the community, because that's also not true, right? Like, there's all sorts of policies and things that happen like right next door to you, and people are like, what? That's going on? I don't know, because they're just trying to survive and hustle and all that. But I am saying that they have lived lives. They are aware of their own histories, their own communities, their own experiences to some degree, and to varying degrees. So to me, I'm just trying to find that in. What is it that you're interested in and that you have knowledge about that we can build on, that I can make this connection? And I'm doing that all the time. My big brother's really good with sports. That ain't my shit as much, but he can talk to anybody anywhere on earth about a ball and any sort of objective. That's just his thing. Drop him anywhere, he'll talk to you about sports. Pop culture tends to be the thing for me. So just finding ways to make connections for folks with what they're actually engaging is the short answer for me. Earlier this week, I think Jared talked about Leonard Peltier and Leonard's discussion of being a native in boarding schools, how he was captured, kidnapped, brutalized, all of those things. One of the things I think that's most interesting about that is he explains that the lands that his people historically stayed on, that the U.S. wanted, had uranium. And so to me, that's a very similar story to Lumumba in the Congo. That's a direct connection right there. So the U.S. is terrorizing people for uranium resources on their land, indigenous people. And so when I am trying to explain that history to somebody, why do I see those connections, all of that? Black Panther 2 is the perfect example. It's one of the biggest films on earth, and it tries to tell the story of an indigenous community in the Americas with resources, an African community with resources, and it tells it as a conflict. And so that becomes my question. Why is Leonard Peltier's story not being connected to Lumumba's story? Why is it instead being told as conflict? That was a long roundabout way of saying if I wanted to talk to niggas about Black Panther 2, I could tie it to Venezuela. And I think that's the kind of thing we have to be doing, finding people's interests and then connecting it to what we know. But that takes a lot of us knowing, which is a lot of work on our side to be informed.
Lord, I can see you in the community right before PE. Oh, in this community, I mean, just in the community in general, right before you give them some PE, be like, what your interests are? Who you bees with?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
This nigga went and got a teapot.
But
he went and got a teapot. That's crazy.
Hold on. Yeah, this man got servings of tea. Now I want some. Hold on.
Hey man, listen.
I have the sleep break. No, Stone Chowder, you do not have to go watch it.
Yes, you do have to go watch Sinners. Yes, you do.
Again, unless you're doing what I'm talking about. If you're trying to do what I just did, you're trying to connect Sinners.
Good.
Sinners.
Are you hating on the movie?
Yeah.
It was all right. Enjoy what you.
Are y'all hating on that soundtrack?
Take me through that. Is that
I like the
That's
soundtrack. That was the blackest.
On the rocky road to double N. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that was my shit. Oh my gosh, back up, bro. Goddamn.
The dog has been very.
I'm tired of having a dog.
I think he wants to be on remix.
You gotta go.
No, join us. He wants to join the interview soon. Oh, I actually know what he's excited for. Amber, are you ready?
No.
No.
What is he excited for?
It's coming. He's excited for Amber's approach.
Welcome to the Remix Morning Show. This is Amber with your favorite segment, Amber's Approach. Hi, guys.
Welcome.
So, welcome to Amber's Approach. We're going to talk about policy going ons, but specifically today about legislation. So, for folks who haven't seen or, aren't paying attention to like government right now, most general sessions for state legislatures have started. In Tennessee, our state legislature has started, and our Tennessee Republicans specifically have written 10 bills to crack down on immigration that were written directly from the White House. They went to the White House and met with Stephen Miller and the president, and they wrote most of these bills. 2 of these are repeat bills, but they wrote most of these bills, and Tennessee, as they said, will serve as a model for the legislation that they want to pass. And so I want to talk about some of that legislation because, it's probably going to be copycat used in other states as well. So it's about 10 different bills, and some of the main ones are about not allowing people who receive food stamps to be undocumented when you have to verify status of citizenship already to receive food stamps. So like that's not something that isn't happening. But the more specific thing is that you have to prove your legal status to apply for food stamps or any other kind of benefits. And when you prove your status and you show that you are not a citizen, they report you to ICE, and they refer ICE to you and the Tennessee Immigration Enforcement Service to come and remove you, basically. So it's just a way of like tracking and hunting down people, basically, if they try to apply for benefits. One of the other bills talks about, trying to find the breakdown right here. Here we go. One of the other ones talks about K through 12 enrollment verification. So this was actually proposed last year and didn't make it through, but requires that you provide proof of legal status to like enroll someone in school. And last year, one of the main arguments is that this is unconstitutional because the Constitution protects folks' right to education. And I think what was kind of shaky was for some people that it's not expressly stated. It is like an implied right. And so you have to like actually fight and like sue over this. But there was a lot of pushback on it, and it didn't actually pass last year. I talked about the proof of legal status before accessing SNAP. Also suing over out-of-state CDLs, talking about people who are not from here getting CDL licenses issued. And if they get a license issued in a different state, that state, if they find out that person is not a resident or a citizen, has to contact ICE. And then it will also authorize the Tennessee Attorney General to sue states that issue licenses to undocumented people and the companies that employ them. A lot of this, I don't think is constitutional either, but I will say that Tennessee has a history of proposing unconstitutional bills, and until they're really pressed on it, either they'll pass it and get sued, or they just won't pass it at all. But I think that Tennessee and the White House are a great matchup putting together some bullshit, because the White House is also going to try things that they know probably isn't constitutional. So they're really a match made in heaven for all the stuff they put together. Another one was about criminalizing illegal entry and re-entry. So technically, it is not a criminal offense to enter into the country undocumented, but it's a civil offense, a civil violation. And this will make it a crime, a misdemeanor, a misdemeanor, which is a higher misdemeanor. It's like the highest one, because for folks who don't know about the way that crime statutes are written, it's A, B, C, D, E. And I've seen F a few times, but the lowest alphabet is the lowest one. So like E or F will be like a $250 fine or something. But A is going to include jail time, and it's usually like mandatory. And so this will make it an A misdemeanor, and you'll be arrested and you will go to jail, as he said here, because they want to make sure that the jail time is mandatory. This other bill is about English only driver's license tests. This actually came up last year as well. And it will require that the test can only be administered in English with a one-time exception. And they said that we understand that some people come into the state from different countries, like working at ceramics, Italian and German companies. And sometimes they come over on a work visa. And this will allow them to get a driver's license with a one-time exception for a 12-month period. And I actually made a video about this. It's going to come out later, but I talked about this. I was like, I think it's so interesting that we keep pushing this driver's license test in English thing, but there are people here who are citizens who do not speak English.
Right.
There are people who were born here that still do not speak English. Yep. So the idea that, English is our national language and everyone should know this is actually some bullshit, because like he also mentioned, people do come over here on work visas from these German companies and from these Italian companies. They also don't speak English. But this bill did not make it last year. And so I think that they're going to get a lot of pushback this year too. So I'm not super confident about this one. I will also say that in Tennessee, it takes about 3 tries for a bill to pass. So usually about the 3rd, sometimes 4th time they can get it passed. This will be the 2nd time for this one. And I do think there's so much heat around this topic, they probably won't be able to pass it this year. And there's another one that requires court and law enforcement cooperation with ICE. Although sanctuary cities are not a thing here, the court systems do not have to cooperate unless they sign like a 287G contract, as I know some people have talked about on the channel. So this will require that they automatically cooperate with ICE, and if they don't, then the Board of Judicial Conduct will intervene, meaning like a sanction or trying to take their license, basically. And then also requiring proof of lawful status for professional licensing. I think that this also really targets African immigrants, Black people specifically, because it would mean that for folks who are teachers, nurses, contractors, or other state regulated jobs in Tennessee, being a medical laboratory tech, which is a really popular job for African folks, science, it's a science, job, is very popular here. That's a licensed field. Being a barber, cosmetologist, natural hairstylist, all licensed fields. Those will also affect Black people. And then for folks who you have to provide proof of legal status before you can get that state regulated license. And then the mandatory e-verify thing, I know that that's something that happened in Florida, and they had a lot of backlash from that. Like, they really haven't recovered from the lack of like labor force, because so many people are not able to work jobs because they have mandatory e-verify. But currently it's optional for state and local government employers to use it. And this will require that everyone is using e-verify. But I do know that in Tennessee, most governments are using e-verify. So this is kind of redundant too. And then they also have like these reporting requirements they want to do to require people to report quarterly. And one of them also said monthly on immigration encounters. And then there's another one requiring local law enforcement to participate in immigration enforcement, because right now, not every local law enforcement agency has signed a 287G contract. So only in Memphis, only the Shelby County Sheriff's Office has signed a contract. And there's only about 50 local law enforcement agencies that currently participate throughout the state of Tennessee, but they want all of them to participate. And I know like in Nashville, they haven't signed one. So stuff like that. I wanted to make sure that we talked about it, because this is a lot of immigration bills that are going to be copied and like sent to other states, like the same thing they normally do in most places during like a state general session. And so I want to talk about it because of that reason, so people can also be paying attention, because I know that folks are really looking at like, how this is impacting Hispanic folks, which is important, but a lot of these are really going to target like licensed jobs that like African folks do. Because I mean, my hairstylist is African. Like most people I know in like the hair field here in Memphis, especially, are African or Black. So, and this is also an issue that's been trying to be deregulated for a few years. They tried to deregulate barber, cosmetology, and natural hair licenses several times and have lost. And I feel like this is also a pushback on that too, because they weren't able to deregulate it. And so they put it in this broad field. And I also think that Tennessee does something different, where they do license some contractors, but not all contractors are licensed in every state. And so that also impacts people who are doing like construction work, roofing, like all that stuff, because they have to get like contractual licenses to be a contractor and like have to be bonded, insured, and all that stuff. So I just want to put that on y'all's radar, to like be paying attention to what you're seeing in your states, and getting your talking points ready, showing up at the state house, whatever you got to do, because I'm gonna have to go up to our state house an annoying amount of times this year.
Real quick, do you know which ones you think are more likely to go through versus be challenged? I know that can be kind of hard to guess, but that English only test sounds like very anti-civil rights, anti-voting rights act. Like it's a literacy test.
Yeah.
2.0. So just curious.
I would say I think the K through 12 enrollment is gonna struggle. The proof of legal status before accessing SNAP is already required. Like, when you're filling out SNAP benefits, you already have to say whether or not you're a U.S. citizen. And if you're not, you don't receive the benefits. Like it's already for U.S. citizens. That's already been enforced. And so I think the redundancy of that might be kind of hard. Also, they're really not doing it because they don't think it's happening. They're doing it because they want to add in the enforcement part of it. And if you're not a citizen, we're going to refer you to ICE and find you. So I think that that's going to get a lot of pushback. The suing over out-of-state CDLs is dumb, and I think that it's not going to be a priority. I also want to say that this is a tactic. To put together 10 bills is a tactic, because realistically, they're only going to push hard for like 4 or 5.
Gotcha.
I think that the criminalizing illegal entry and re-entry will probably pass or get close to passing. The English-only driver's test is going to struggle for sure, because it struggled last year. And I do think it gets into like civil rights. And the requiring court and law enforcement cooperation with ICE is also going to struggle, because judges have jurisdiction, courts have jurisdiction, and that's not something that the state can technically change like outright. They can't remove like a judge's discretion. So that's also something I think will really struggle. I think the mandatory E-Verify will pass. I think requiring the status for professional licensing might struggle, but probably will pass because people don't fight as hard for Black people. And even though that there's immigration orgs here that are like pushing back and stuff, they don't go as hard for stuff like that because they don't think about how it impacts like Black immigrants. The state agencies reporting thing will probably pass because people like data, and they'll always be like, even the Democrats will be like, yeah, we want the data. And I think requiring local law enforcement to participate in immigration enforcement is going to struggle because a lot of people are going to push back, talking about how like they don't want the biggest argument is that people don't want their police focusing on that because Tennessee is mostly rural. And so most of them only got 4 police officers.
Right.
Like they don't have a large police department at all. At the most, like even the smallest cities maybe have 5 to 10 cops in the entire county. So they don't want the police focusing on that because they're like, this is a waste of time. We already don't have a lot of police. And that's been the largest argument is that like we don't have a lot of police in general. But Putnam County, which is in East Tennessee, they signed a 287G contract like early on, like for a long time ago, and have been housing people that have been detained because they were getting so much money for it. And the sheriff said specifically that he wanted to do this because he was getting so much money for it, and that their county needed money. And people were like, "Yeah, because you're a fucking sellout." So they have been doing that for a while, but the appeal of the money stuff isn't enough for other counties. Like they're like, it's still not enough for me to be like, yeah, I'm going to lock people up. So a lot of other counties haven't signed on. Because I mean, there's 190 counties in Tennessee, and there's only 50 that are signed on that participate.
So I'm always appreciative how thorough you are, Amber, and how you share that. And Lord always seems to push me in the direction that I am about to go, seemingly. But so when you were talking, and when I was reading some of those tests that Lorick also identify, and we said like something about civil rights, and then I immediately started thinking before the civil rights, like W.E.B. Du Bois, what is to be done with the Negro. And then the other day, I think Kamal was at one rally, and Kamal was saying like something about slave catcher, right? And yeah, I think like the time that we are in, and like it's very hard for you to even imagine that you are the slave that you know about back then. Like it's very hard, but if you like,
but we are.
Yeah, but I'm saying I we can say that here in this channel, but I'm saying it's hard to like, yeah. So, but if you like look at it from, as Marima Ani talks about the germinating seed of European cultures, like this is like what is to be done with the Negro. Automation versus or automation along with what is to be done with the Negro. And like it's like the capitalist nation is just like openly saying it. Like so, when I read this, it's like they're done with our labor. There's no more like they're good. Like now, what the fuck we gonna do with the Negro problem is what is to be done with these niggas? We gonna have ICE. We gonna have open air prisons, shooting in the streets. Whatever. They got to get the fuck out of here. That's kind of what I'm reading, even in that little thing. Black, brown, whatever. Everything that's othered got to go.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what's happening. I mean, I think that also, if folks have ever seen any of the Tennessee rhetoric, like the main things that have been pushed by Tennessee is that like we're being outnumbered. Like this idea that they're being outnumbered. There are like 50,000 plus African immigrants in Tennessee. A lot of them are in like the sciences. My mom is a lab manager at a hospital, and most of like a good chunk of her employees are mostly Black, but like half of them are African. And a lot of them come over here because in Memphis we have St. Jude Hospital. The majority of the people who work there that are immigrants are African. Like there's a few white folks, of course, like from Germany, other like white countries, European countries, but a lot of them are African, and they come over here because St. Jude's gonna pay for their work visa. They're gonna help them get citizenship. So does like the other hospital system. They all like will do all the paperwork to get them citizenship and everything. So they come here, but they're really trying to put an end to that. And they know that the larger, populations are in Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville. Knoxville has an extremely large refugee population because there's like a refugee processing center and like resource place in Knoxville specifically. And it's like a entry point a lot of people have. Like they'll come from whatever like country they're coming from and somehow get to Knoxville as like their refugee entry point. And so it's a very, very large refugee population of folks who have been given asylum. And so this also, you know, will affect that because some of those people, depending on like if they get legal status, do qualify for SNAP benefits. So technically they would, you know, qualify even if they weren't a citizen because they have a legal status that gives them like the ability to get that. But then this is saying we're going to report you. Even if they have legal status, they've still been arresting people. So then they report these people and folks go after them. So even that puts them like in danger. So I agree with you completely. I think that we aren't taking it as serious as I think we should, but I think that people will push back here in Tennessee. And I think as long as people are paying attention in other places so they can watch out for what the legislation will look like, because they have mentioned multiple times they have been meeting with Stephen Miller and Trump for over 6 months writing this legislation. Now, why it took them this long to write 10 bills, 4 of which they've already introduced before, I'll never know. But, you know, they're not that smart. So,
yeah. Appreciate that segment of Amber's approach. I actually see some questions that I saved. So if y'all have any more questions, let us know. This will be a new segment. And it looks like you were getting a lot of love and appreciation for Amber. So we appreciate you.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Lord, if you send me the questions, I can answer them next time.
Got you. All right. Thank you, Amber, for that new segment. And we are about to be joined by a special guest covering Venezuela, as we've been covering throughout the past 2 weeks. So go ahead, grab a drink, grab some tea, and be ready to join.
Periodista favorito.
Good morning, everyone. Peace. Today we are joined by Camila Escalante. She is a press TV correspondent and editor at, please help me with this pronunciation, Calsation News.
That's correct. Good
I
job.
got it. Okay, Calsation News. I've also seen you on Venezuela Analysis, and Geechee, who's more traveled than me, happens to be a comrade. So we're happy to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm well, considering everything. Obviously, it's been really crazy, and I think everyone is feeling that right now. I'm streaming beside me Telesur, the Spanish signal, and they have images of this massive march in Havana, which is taking place right now in honor of the 32 combatants who were killed fulfilling their duties in defending Venezuela and the president on January 3rd. And so they are on the second day of paying tribute to those 32 combatants whose remains have been returned to Cuba. And they've had a very elaborate program, which began yesterday, to receive those remains of the combatants. They honored them when they were arrived at Havana International Airport. Yesterday at the Ministry of the Revolutionary Armed Forces, they had sort of like I guess some sort of I don't know if it's a viewing, because it's not like an open casket situation, obviously, because of the state that they were in, but people got to go and pay respects. And so they lined up, even despite the rain and the weather, for many blocks or even longer. And then this continued today. So they had like official military ceremony yesterday. Today, President Diaz-Canel spoke. And of course, like the relatives of the fallen were there. And so it's really moving. Like they decreed, was it 2 days of national mourning right after they announced that the Cubans were killed, and then now there's this tribute. So it's kind of been like since January 3rd, well, at least since January 5th or 6th when they announced it, that that they've been talking about this. And a big part of it is because Cuba knows that they are on the list of priorities of this US regime.
Thank you. I want to take a step back because you got to a very interesting point for us. Why are Cubans in Venezuela in the first place? And the US media were only saying that there were no American casualties, and that's all we're supposed to care about with this capture of Maduro. So why are Cubans in Venezuela in the first place? Why is there funeral processions going on right now? Can you spell that out for us?
Yeah, the people who were in Venezuela were 32 members of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Cuba and of the Interior Ministry. And they are people who are largely in their late 30s to 60s. That is not the average, 22, 24-year-old soldier. These are people that are highly experienced and trusted to defend their own homeland, and who, as internationalists, lend their basically their service to protect Venezuela, given that their revolution is over 60 years old and they have a lot of experience, military experience in security, and of course intelligence that they can lend other countries. And it's not something that, we hear details about, but they have done this in other countries, not just Venezuela. And so, they were there as part of, the security apparatus of President Nicolas Maduro. And of course, at least 108 people were killed, both Venezuelans and Cubans, civilians and military, on January 3rd, all killed within like an hour's time because the operation was really fast. The majority of them were Venezuelan, and they were, members of the Bolivarian Armed Forces of Venezuela. So, they were killed in combat defending their country as well. And not in I mean, the images are really gruesome of what happened to these people and the way that they were killed. And I'm glad that they're not really circulating a whole lot. I don't think they circulated that much in the initial hours, but there was a lot of, cell phone video and photos of the of the victims of this attack. And that's just to say that, it's not like these people had you know perceivably orders to stand down or anything. They were killed, on their feet defending Venezuela. And so that's what they were doing there. They were fulfilling the mission. I tweeted yesterday, I posted on X a video of an interview by Canal Caribe, the Cuban channel, interviewing the father of one of the Cubans who was killed, and said that he had been there for under 2 months. And Venezuela has been under threat, direct, explicit threat by the US regime, at least since Trump came back into office and started with the foreign terrorist designations. And then when he, moved to begin the strikes that have killed people extrajudicially in the Caribbean Sea. And so these people are carrying out, these Cubans are carrying out their missions in Venezuela, knowing that that the US was probably going to hit land targets in Venezuela sometime soon, and that the president was under direct and explicit threat by the United States. So it obviously they're very, they're being honored as very brave and courageous soldiers of their own revolution, but also for their contributions to Venezuela.
So it's good to see you again, Camila.
Good to see you.
I want to kind of, and then it might be a big question, but I want to kind of build off of what Laura just asked. In the United States, it feels like, well, I mean, it's obvious that most people are like backward thinking. And even on the left, we could possibly be talking about, like, Maduro or whatever. But like, even we're not talking about those 32 people, the people who were killed. And like, even if we're talking about it, we're not talking about in a way where it impacts us. So again, I think it's probably a big question, but in your like maybe travels or connection to other parts of America, Spanish speaking, would you have an answer of how people are like responding to it? Maybe versus what I'm saying, like desensitized, American desensitized youth person in the U.S.?
I think people are the opposite of desensitized in a lot of the Caribbean and Latin America. I think this is really people are feeling that we are entering a new era and that things are really changing and they're really alarmed. You saw just uh, a couple of days ago, there was, what the Assembly of Caribbean Peoples called a Grand Assembly of Peoples that was held in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. And this was with a whole number of organizations, not only the main committee of the Assembly of Caribbean Peoples, but they invited people from all over the world and certainly North America to join either in person or online to talk about, what the next steps are in guarding the sovereignty of our countries, not just Venezuela, but throughout the entire region, because everybody knows that this means that anybody could be next. At the same time as the United States is coercing each and every one of these governments individually and trying to get them to sign agreements and do a whole bunch of things to receive, for example, citizens of other countries as a third country, to get these governments to agree to expand or open the use of their soil as a U.S. military base or use their international airports, et cetera, et cetera. They are almost like, extorting these governments until they comply. And even so, even if these countries such as Guyana, such as Trinidad and Tobago, such as Ecuador, Panama, Dominican Republic, Argentina agree to do these things today, where that leaves them tomorrow and the next week is they have to continue agreeing to do more things. It's not just like it's not just like take our prisoners, take the people we deport. It's not just let us use our military base, or in the case of Tobago, let us install that radar system for our use for war. It's like they're going to ask for that, but then they're going to ask for more. They're going to ask for changes in, obviously the economy. They want these countries to be open to U.S. companies to go in and exploit, and all sorts of other things. So it's absolutely endless. There are no perceivable actual benefits to this sort of partnership with the United States, as these countries have seen. If there was, these countries would be doing like absolutely amazing, and their people would be doing really well, but it's not the case in many of them. So it's a really slippery slope, but I think a lot of people are beginning to realize, in particular people in Trinidad and Tobago who are absolutely destroying their prime minister online for all the concessions she's made to the United States. I mean, it's not really concessions. It's actually like she was, in her entire existence in politics, was to be pro-US, to be anti-Venezuela, to perpetuate within Trinidad and Tobago those lies, those xenophobic lies about Venezuelan people, to criminalize them, to make it seem like Venezuelans are inherently criminal, bad people, sketchy people, people who rely on welfare, things like that, which is exactly what's being pushed in the United States, which is just very, racist from the outset. But it's also just, it is a campaign of dehumanization of the Venezuelan that has lasted many years, that we have become accustomed and desensitized to. You can say almost anything about the Venezuelan person, whether it's the Venezuelan who's living in Denver, Colorado, whether it's in Minneapolis, whether it's a person who has papers in the US or who is undocumented, who has never committed a crime or who has. Also, they say these same things about Venezuelans in Chile and Argentina, and they say these things about Venezuelans in Venezuela themselves, like all of the memes and all the sort of characteristics that we've assigned to people. It's deeply, deeply racist. And now it's perfectly normal. Obviously, we've done it to many other immigrant groups in the United States as well. But this is the basis upon which they're trying to build up this character as the criminal narco Venezuelan in order to try to justify and create a pretext for this sort of invasion, even saying that even their leaders and political leaders are themselves, part of criminal organizations as well. And they're trying to do the same with other Latin American countries. And surely if some of these Caribbean countries and governments do not cooperate with the United States, they could do that as well. it seems, from what I can tell, that these Caribbean governments have been very receptive to the approaches by Canada, European countries, and the United States. And even still, it's not enough for Marco Rubio. They want more, and they want to bring all of these countries who respectively had their own independence processes, they want to bring them under US imperialist dominion again, or in some cases for the first time if they were, part of some other empire.
So when you say they, a lot of people can identify with the white right wing opposition we're seeing in the U.S. That's been plain, but there's a lot more confusion with those who are opposed to the revolution, opposed to democratic processes. We got to hear from Comrade Dr. Layla earlier, who was with you on the Anti-Imperialist Scholars Collective, talking about this background. So I have something to maybe start us off, and maybe you could give us a little bit of an outline of who the they are, not just from the US's perspective, but the Venezuelan right-wing opposition. A lot of people are talking about this story recently of Maria Corina Machado giving Trump her Nobel Peace Prize. So can you give us a little bit of information about these folks and what they're trying to organize here?
Well, she's completely shameless. I mean, I woke up this morning looking at yesterday's news and I put in a group chat, I'm like, what is the drug? What is the substance you have to be on to go out and show face like that day after day, say the things she does without any embarrassment, with so much confidence and no shame? It's absolutely stunning. Like, I want to access what she's on because she just is ruthlessly going to Europe, going to Washington, holding these meetings with senators. I was, looking at the video of her talk at the long table with this group of senators, I guess, who hosted her in Washington yesterday. And the things she's saying, it's absolutely absurd. Like, this is somebody who, again, Maria Corina Machado, who is, the face of the opposition right now. She was an elected legislator in Venezuela, previously a member of the National Assembly, and a very outspoken person who has been in politics for a long time, also one of the wealthiest people in Venezuela. She has stood by idly while these campaigns of xenophobia against her own people have taken place, when they were taking those people who were to be deported on different basis because, some of them, their status in the country had possibly expired. Some of them had some traffic violation, whatever it is, and they sent them to the Secot in El Salvador. She didn't denounce that. She didn't stand up and, defend her people. She hasn't, said anything about the sort of attacks that Venezuelans have experienced, including the ones who were killed extrajudicially in the Caribbean Sea during these naval or military strikes against these fishermen. She hasn't said anything to demand, that the United States release any sort of record for who these people are, to list their names, what their crime was, what are they even accused of being associated with, if it is illicit trafficking of cargo. We don't even have details on that, and she has never demanded that. So she's not, in any way protecting the sovereignty of her country, that's for sure, but she doesn't even care about the people, and she's deeply unrelatable. And we're seeing her, throughout, the last year and a half in particular, because she, has been in the international media since at least, the months leading up to the July 2024 presidential elections. And she's going to business forums internationally. She's talking about how Venezuela needs to open up its economy so that foreign companies and corporations can come and exploit the country, not only its oil, but she's really going out there and saying that they have all of these rare earth minerals, which will be really important for, technological development in the United States, needed for chips, needed for AI, all sorts of different things. And that's what she wants. She wants to take control of Venezuela so that she can sell off the different things that Venezuela has, its wealth, but territory, to her different friends and these different corporations. And she has stated that is her objective. It really stands in contrast to what the Bolivarian government under President Nicolas Maduro's leadership has stood for.
Can I just highlight the irony of democracy that you're discussing? Because we're told this is not a democracy, and you said as an opposition leader, she was allowed to perform a role as a democratically elected official. And then to what you're saying, this is from a brother from the Manhattan Institute who shared this. It says, the vision for Venezuela, this is their great plan. So thank you for highlighting that. I wanted to ask next, so that was a bit about the opposition, about who's currently in power, President Delcy.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Amber. You can handle this one. I'll jump out.
Appreciate it. Hey, Camilla.
Hi.
I want to ask about, I know we talked on a previous week about like the good things that Nicolas Maduro has done and like different programs, stuff like that. So could you talk in more detail about that? Like how he has worked to stabilize the country or different things he's done? Because I feel like it's really hard to find resources that talk about that to kind of compare what the US like talking points are.
Yeah, well, this is part of what was in Delcy Rodriguez's speech yesterday before the National Assembly. So every year, they essentially give some equivalent of the State of a Union address in Venezuela. And it's the annual address to the nation at the National Assembly. And that should have been President Nicolas Maduro giving that speech. And given his abduction, and that he's a hostage of the United States right now, and that Delcy Rodriguez is acting president, she gave the speech, and she said just 6 hours before he was abducted, they were working on this speech together. And so in that speech, she highlights some of the different achievements of the government management during the 2025 year. And she said she stated some figures on the improvement to the national electrical grid, to electricity in homes, to access to water in the different areas of the country, and the different improvements to infrastructure. And this has been really important because this is a country that, because of the unilateral coercive measures, went through a very difficult time, which was an economic crisis that was imposed externally. It was generated externally by external factors, which is this country that should have, nothing to do with the internal affairs of Venezuela, and made it impossible for Venezuela's government to access their own money, access their own companies abroad, the gold in another country, and made it impossible for them to purchase things on the international market. And as a result, you saw things like street lights not working. You saw, just basic infrastructure deteriorating without maintenance for some period of time there. And it was very difficult and very unfortunate, but we knew what the origin of that was, which is not socialistic governance policies. The origin was this induced crisis. And so the model of the Bolivarian government has been to take the money, the earnings from its oil industry, and invest it into social programs, things like improving the salaries of workers, which have been very low, putting that money into schools, into food, into housing, and into improving infrastructure, and into funds for social and economic development. And it's been very successful. And anyone who was there 5 years ago and goes back there today can see that it's that things have dramatically improved. That fishermen, for example, working in coastal communities, they have more to work with. Things are becoming more mechanized, like they're able to do more because of some of the relations that they have built with key partners like China. And so this has been really important. At the same time, they, part of what Delcy said was in the plan for 2026 is to continue fortifying these different industries in the country, where they've achieved over 90% food sovereignty, and that they want to maintain growth levels in vegetable, grain, their fishing industries, animal protein, which now makes up a large percentage of the GDP. And so that's really important because they're able to now feed their people and looking to export it to the partners that they have. And all of this economic recovery is thanks to President Nicolas Maduro. It's not thanks to, Hugo Chavez, who was the president and commander of the Bolivarian Revolution before the sanctions. He had many of the ideas. And so, his legacy is in everything that President Nicolas Maduro has carried out. But it was President Nicolas Maduro who has saved this country with his leadership and all of the entrepreneurs and small business people and the grassroots who have worked really hard, because these people stayed in the country even despite this massive campaign to try to get people to leave Venezuela to seek economic opportunity elsewhere. The United States had, these different sort of ways of luring people, telling them that there were, at least temporary ways in which they could be in the United States and seek work. And a lot of people, given the hardship and the low salaries, and the lack of opportunity for young people in particular, decided to leave. But those who stayed fought to defend their country. They were like, this is a country in revolution. Like only the escolidos or only the gusanos are, in the United States because they don't like our model. But we got what we have fought for all these years, and we have to stay here and defend it and work through it, even despite this hardship, because they saw that as temporary. And so it looks like, even though, part of the US imperialist attack and aggression on the United States is now these, that they're literally going after oil tankers and seizing them or blocking them, through a naval blockade, that Venezuela is proceeding with their plan to try to further recover and improve their economy. And right now in 2025, it was had the most economic growth of all countries in non-Caribbean Latin America, let's say that, or in Latin America as it's a category according to CEPAL of the United Nations. And that is they are projected to be the country with the largest economic growth for 2026 as well.
So,
What you
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. I was just gonna say what you were just describing reminds me a lot of Kwame Nkrumah and Accra when he became president and changed, a lot of things in Ghana and really pushed, for infrastructure developments, and also was pushing socialist messaging throughout the country and in other places. And then, the United States came in with a coup and killed him. So I think that, just shows the history of when we see other countries like garnering their own independence, setting up their own systems, becoming less dependent on the US or other imperialist systems, they want to make sure they can come in and break that up.
It sounds like Amber been reading the books Lord sent her. No, I'm joking.
I read all the time.
So really quickly, Camilla, you're laying some shit out and people in the comments are loving you. Very expansive. Earlier when you was talking, I was thinking about a lot of Jared Ball's media work around US propaganda and how through the movies, right, you could be like, because I'm seeing how people respond to it in the US. Like through the movies, you could be taught to celebrate this and be like, oh shit, Trump's a gangster. He or you could watch like your series of what's the Equalizer with Queen Latifah, and the first people they say Venezuela bad, Venezuela. So like the most people are conditioned here to like, I don't know, not think. And I remember like when I was living in Central America, having my like family over, and I'm like this is this for this place, right? So you can think of this in America, and this is this, just to see how people are worlds apart. So anyway, I'm asking this because I think you're already kind of illustrating what it will be like to be there on the ground and like take it all in. And I wonder about what is the media climate there? Like, we got Fox News in the U.S. and then I don't know, whatever the ones who act more left. But there's no like representation of like real radical left, whatever. Like in the mainstream, you can get a YouTube channel. But yeah, I'm just curious. What is that like? Like what type of media folks are there? Like who's the right wing? Who's the left? Is there equal? I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I think, there's just this existing US exceptionalism. And, a lot of people in the United States feel like the whole range of thought that can exist or expression that can exist or viewpoints or anything is all within US Anglo media. And so that's very limited. In Venezuela, they have their own news networks, their own national news, they have their own entertainment industry. They historically, before things got difficult, had a very prominent telenovela and entertainment industry, which people from all over Latin America would travel to Venezuela, actors, etc., to be in that film industry and television industry. But beyond that, I think Venezuelans, they consume a lot from Colombia, from around Latin America. Even like Spanish media is really dominant around Spanish from Spain. Media is very dominant around Latin America, but they even consume things from like US English media. Like I see podcasters from the US get subtitled in Venezuela. So they have like a range of viewpoints. Telesur, which is, supposed to be like a multi-state channel, but it's really based in Venezuela and Cuba primarily, with bases in Mexico and other, but the main one is in Venezuela. They have major agreements with RT from Russia, with Al Mayadeen, which is Lebanon, with CGTN and Xinhua, I think both. And they actually will play like a 30-minute Xinhua program, or it's CGTN, now I can't remember. On Telesur translated.
I'm sorry, Xinhua for our viewers.
Oh, it's a Chinese state television or media, but I'm talking about the television service. And so they're getting programmings from all over the world translated into Spanish. And those are actually, you can actually get that channel just like CGTN or Xinhua in countries like Venezuela, Bolivia, and Cuba, just on regular TV if you just want to scroll to it. Sometimes even Hispan TV, which is the Spanish language channel of Press TV, based in Tehran, Iran, and they have correspondents there. So they have a whole range of views. And so some of the analysis that you get on Venezuelan TV is really good because they're monitoring the media and hearing different viewpoints from all over the world, which is really how it should be, right? Like you shouldn't have to tell people like, don't watch Al Jazeera, that's like Qatar, like whatever propaganda. Like, I mean, I say that all the time, but like really some people should be, we should be keen enough and take responsibility to learn media literacy and to understand how the media works, how to properly engage with social media, to the point where we are, able to view things that have disinformation, whether it be Alex Jones, whether it be whatever, and be able to watch it and criticize it and understand what they're saying, what could be a valid perspective, what is pure propaganda, what is imperialist propaganda, and stuff like that. But we don't even have those skills to be able to do that in Western countries a lot of the time. So yeah, I think people are the ideas behind socialism, behind building a socialist model in Venezuela and things like that are much more normal than they are in the United States, where we're kind of just starting out with familiarizing ourselves in terms of I guess not us, but the average person. It's becoming very trendy to to support socialism on TikTok and things like that. We have a lot of creators, even beauty creators, who have really begun to stand up for issues like Palestine, for the self-determination of peoples, against police brutality in the US and things like that. But we're just starting out. But it's like much more profound in countries like Venezuela. And so for that reason, I sit around just consuming Venezuelan sort of like talk show analysis all the time, because I just find that I can't find that anywhere in English media.
Thanks.
I want to open it up to the chat for some questions while Camilla's still with us. I have a few highlighted that I'll just raise for you, and you can address those. One is, of course, could you please join Black Liberation Media more often? I think that's on our side, so definitely we'll reach out.
Not Amber's side. Don't put Amber in there.
The role of CARICOM, is it changing, or is it still a coalition that is the lapdog of the empire? So I think that was one question.
Well, I think that's a very important question, and that's what I'm asking myself right now. This is a very important organization that should be used to protect these individual countries. A lot of the member countries of CARICOM, there are like 11 of them, are very tiny. They have tiny populations. They do not have their own military. I think it would be very difficult for them to be able to defend themselves in the situation of, it would be impossible, of any sort of invasion or anything like that. They are genuinely close to powerless on their own. Their power comes only if they are united as a Caribbean region and united as CELAC within the rest of the Caribbean and Latin American region. Remember, there are Caribbean countries that are not in the Caribbean. For example, the Dominican Republic is a Caribbean country. Cuba is a Caribbean country. Venezuela, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, they all have Caribbean coasts as well. So this is not all the Caribbean countries are in the Caribbean community, CARICOM, but they have to get together right now. And what has been happening throughout at least the last year is that the United States has been coming and trying to divide this bloc and trying to pit these countries against each other using these countries like the government of Trinidad and Tobago, who say that that CARICOM is sort of, I don't know what the words were she used, but she essentially said that it's like not relevant anymore. But it is relevant. It's more relevant than ever, because we're at the stage, and this is not something that CARICOM would assume, they wouldn't adopt this position, but others might be thinking about it, where this region, Latin America and the Caribbean, should be thinking about the building of an anti-imperialist international army to be able to defend themselves from, the brute force of the United States. Because the United States has already stated that they do not recognize the validity of international law. That's why they are distancing themselves and withdrawing from these international bodies of the UN. They don't believe in this sort of international legal framework of the courts or any of these sort of regulations that exist to govern how states interact among each other and how to resolve issues. And so the United States believes in this rules-based international order. Well, I mean, regardless of what you think of the UN and international law, in theory, Venezuela and the Caribbean and most countries of the world still believe in international law. They still believe that we have a duty as states to try to bar any sort of genocide from happening, a Holocaust from happening, and we're not supposed to, violate these international norms and go and invade other countries and surgically remove their leaders or anything like that. And so, the U.S. is kind of moving the goalposts constantly, and the only way to defend against that is unity among these different countries. And if we're going to a situation where we require nuclear weapons or military to defend our territories, well, we don't have that. Which countries of Latin America and the Caribbean have nuclear weapons and have large militaries? Like only like Brazil, Mexico, Colombia. So we're really screwed if we don't come together. So I think we're waiting to see, and the peoples of the Caribbean are waiting to see what this bloc is going to do, because they are determining right now in this moment whether they are relevant or not, whether they are going to stand up for the people of their countries and region, because they've already gone too far. Like I said, they've lent their territories to the United States to be able to use their countries as, you know, military aircraft carriers for Southcom. And that is a very dangerous precedent, because that means that any of these countries, Dominican Republic, Panama, Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, etc., could now be used to launch war against any country that they want to in our region.
Really quickly, I appreciate that answer. It made me think of I think earlier we was talking about anthropologist named Marimba Ani, which again people probably wouldn't read her, but in her study on European thought and culture, there's a term called like rhetorical ethic that I don't know if she made it up, but that the U.S. will literally convince people, the world, to believe in the thing that, and they don't even believe in the thing. It's rhetorical, right? So you create a UN and international law, and now you say you will believe in international law, and but it's also interesting, like how it's hard for us who, again, on the left or Marxist, whatever, to not be able to even like apply it or understand it, like what's going on right now, to even have a clear analysis as you're like sharing right now of like what's going on, because most people with a particular analysis are like, this is going to happen this way, it got to happen the way, there's nothing outside of it not happening away. And so yeah, I'm just appreciative that you're able to like just name that you have to be able to like read the room or read the room.
Yeah, what the analysts have been saying on Venezuelan TV is that we're in a situation where the United States wants to completely do away with international law as we know it. They want us to believe that it doesn't matter anymore, and they're going to start using their so-called rules-based international order, which is something completely made up. There's no actual rules. You can't find them anywhere, whether you're an international legal scholar or anything else. There's no way to locate what the rules and regulations and norms are of this so-called rules-based international order. And so the United States is just testing the waters right now. But after this, they are going to reserve the right of them for themselves to go and invade other countries, take other countries under their dominion. And essentially, we're moving towards a world where the only countries that can possibly exist, according to someone like Alexander Dugin, is that there's just going to be competing empires, and everyone is going to be under the dominion of India, China, the US, or Russia. And we're all going to have to fall under one of those. Why? Because militarily we can't defend ourselves, and because nobody cares about international law, regardless of what you think about it. And so that's really scary, because it means that it's just these big powers, if you believe that, or you believe that's what the United States is moving towards, that's going to compete. I mean, and if you notice, none of the countries that I mentioned there, those 4 countries, India, China, US, and Russia, are in Africa or Latin America. So, in the Caribbean. So, what are we going to fall under? We're all going to be the subject of these wars between these large military powers. And so it's an extremely dangerous time. I don't know if our leaders who are sitting around like issuing these statements of concern and tweeting like Gustavo Petro realize the gravity of the situation right now, where our countries as we know it and their territories and borders may cease to exist in a year if the United States continues down the path that it's going.
We had one more.
There was one last question. Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
Can you explain CLAC and its purpose?
Am I echoing? I'm sorry. I thought I was.
I mean, CELAC is also, you know, it's something, even just hearing that name is a little bit demoralizing for me, because the United States has tried and has put in great effort to try to divide that bloc. It's a regional bloc of all of the states, 33 states of the Caribbean and Latin America all together. It's not the OAS, Organization of American States, which is based in Washington, which includes the United States and Canada. The OAS, which receives the vast majority of its funding from the United States, and the remaining funding, a lot of it is received from observer states. All of them are in Europe plus Japan. And so it means that the OAS has nothing to do with the United States. It's not funding, it's not funded by the Caribbean and Latin America. It has its own specific interests there. And, it's what I think what has been nicknamed the Ministry of the Colonies, et cetera. So the CELAC, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, is an alternative to that was born out of the vision of people like Hugo Chavez and Fidel during what was called, I guess, the pink tide in Latin America, where we had a lot of left-wing governments at the same time in the early 2000s. And their idea was that these countries need a way to come together. Gustavo Petro has been tweeting in recent days, he's talking about, he's kind of like romanticizing Gran Colombia, which is when, this idea of Bolivar for these countries, to be one great homeland, which is like Venezuela, Ecuador, Colombia. And, but, again, what Venezuelan analysts say is like, okay, stop jerking off to Gran Colombia. We have CELAC. We have mechanisms through which we can become more united. Why, when all of this has happened post January 3rd, have these countries, these leaders, the neighboring leaders, they say they're so scared, Lula, the president of Mexico and Colombia, they had so much concern. They always have concern over what has transpired and the precedent it set. Why don't they do something about it? Why don't they use like some sort of emergency mechanisms to bring countries together and talk about how they're going to respond to this and try to, take action against the United States and defend their countries against this? Because everyone has pretty much in one way or another either explicitly said or implied that this is highly illegal and that they reject it, but they haven't actually done anything. So it's really a failure of these other countries, because at the same time, Lula was, reportedly the reason why Venezuela was not welcomed into the BRICS. And so, why are they not using these sorts of things we have to try to, provide additional security for Venezuela by having it become a member of the BRICS and things like that. So essentially, these analysts, from Venezuela would say that these countries are not serious. They're not serious about sovereignty. If they'll let it happen to one country, which we've seen, these sorts of violations of international law and occupation and in Haiti as well, but in other countries as well to other degrees. So it's not like it's only Venezuela, but it is a little bit unprecedented in recent years, what we're seeing with, the hostage taking of the Venezuelan president. But if countries are seeing this happen to Venezuela, it's going to even, sooner happen to the rest of our countries. Today, one of the biggest lapdogs in our region is Daniel Noboa, the president of Ecuador. Tomorrow, if for some reason he decides to go rogue and freestyle and decide that he doesn't want to do what the United States says, he could be taken out as well. Any one of us or any one of our countries and their leaders are vulnerable to this because the United States does what it wants. I'm sure maybe you guys already mentioned it, but they stopped processing those visas for all of those countries, even though they are completely subservient to the United States. Now, most countries of Latin America and the Caribbean, 17 of them, have had complete pauses to the processing of their visas, and I'm sure that these governments have done all sorts of things to try to prevent that, but it doesn't matter. The United States does what it wants, and we're defenseless unless our governments stand up for us.
Thank you. Yeah, I know we're working toward a close. So again, we hope to have you back on the platform. This was excellent. I have one more question, I think, from the chat, and after that, we'll open the floor to you, Camila, if you want to share anything, stories, upcoming work, things like that. But in the vein of possible propaganda, I was wondering if Camila had any light to shed on constitutional law against hate for peaceful coexistence and tolerance.
Is that the name of a law in Venezuela?
I'm not sure.
Or is that some proposal for something else?
I don't know. So that was why I put it up there. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to make sure
That sounds like, because there was such a thing in Venezuela. I'm not really. I would rather be sure before I said so, but one of the things that Delcy Rodriguez said post January 3rd, which I thought was very important, was that in order for peaceful coexistence to exist and for there to be peace in the country, you can't have people working for the empire. You cannot have people who are literally acting as foreign mercenaries and committing acts of terrorism or promoting that. Not only did we have Maria Corina Machado and members of the extremist far right going and working with or practically on the payroll of the United States and some European countries. They've received money through all sorts of, foundations, human rights, et cetera, but you have like other citizen activists in Venezuela who are also doing that. And so Delcy Rodriguez has said like that, to make it, she said, let's be perfectly clear, if we want to talk about a society, because all these people on the exterior are talking about the political crisis in Venezuela, which really doesn't exist. She says those people are like, I don't know, in Spanish they say like they're not just the right wing, they're not just the opposition, they're the anti-politics, because they're against politics. Their methods are terrorism. The only way that they know how to interact with this country politically is through like terrorism. It's through hate. It's through trying to lure people into the destruction of their own country, into looting and all these sorts of like what we call guarimba tactics, the tactics of destruction of infrastructure, of public works, of attacking other fellow citizens, which is not legitimate protest and shouldn't be seen as such. And so, that's completely illegitimate. So I think that's part of, the sorts of laws that they're trying to impose in Venezuela is, laws that say, that you cannot work for or represent some foreign interests in the country. If you're going to come and present yourself as some sort of opposition, you have to do so legitimately through the political system, not through trying to cause harm to your own people and country.
Got it. Definitely. And this person came back and said, I think it was 2017, and there's some modern propaganda. So I think you're on the right track there. Absolutely. We have a troll. I'm sorry. Gotta kick them out. So
the trolls say?
Did they say anything good?
It was.
Listen. You gotta trust the politics.
I messed up. I banned them already, y'all. My ban finger's strong. But it was not helpful or productive for the conversation.
Let them stay. Let them have a free thought. They can't fester in this space.
Camilla's on X still, so I'm sure she deals with plenty of trolls. Doesn't need any more from our chat. So.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Camilla. It was really informative.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm sure you guys have really good conversations that are much needed for the US audience.
Absolutely. Is there anything you wanted to share, something we should have eyes on, some work you have coming out that you want us to take a look at?
I'm doing things like I have to do all sorts of media work all the time, but I think, one of the things that I heard a comrade say was that there's so much intrigue and fascination, if not obsession, with like the palace, like the Miraflores Palace in Venezuela. It's like, what is Nicolas Maduro Jr. saying? What is like the leaders of the boulevard? What's Diosdado Cabello saying? Like, the leaders who are still in Venezuela, which is everybody, because they only took 2 people. But because some people on the exterior are trying to make it seem like the whole government's practically wiped out, but actually it's still standing. But this obsession with like these like speculating about like, is there like an internal division, a fight for power within the different factions, which like you could only say that because the factions exist within every government. I'm telling you, every government that I've been close to, socialist, leftist, right wing, it's all power sharing agreements. It's all different different schools. You always are going to have this happen within every revolution as well. But all that fascination. I mean, this comrade of mine in Mexico was saying that our concern should be to build organizations where we are, particularly in North America and the global North, which will be able to sustain protracted struggle to weaken and destroy US imperialism. That's our job. Our job is to organize where we are, do work where we are, be with our communities, whatever we define our communities as. And that's something that I've been trying to do. I mean, I try to do all the time. Like, I don't consider myself an organizer or activist, even though I do have a role in an organization. But to try to be with people here and speak to people in real life. I don't find my appearances on a particular news program that helpful, especially because I feel like it's not good for someone who has short attention span. It's hard to be on things like this, but being with people in real life and having those conversations, and they're from another immigrant community. Like, we have people here, I'm in Toronto, a lot of Caribbean people here, and speaking to them and like hearing what their families are saying back in the Caribbean and things like that, that is far more useful in building a potential capacity of a movement to be able to fight imperialism. So that has to be our job, not sitting around online speculating about what this person said and trying to read through tweets and official statements and speeches and all of that to see like when the government somewhere is going to break, or criticizing another government or trying to pry them open. That's the job of the Venezuelan people. Our job is to do stuff where we are and fight the empire through with it from within.
That part. Thank you so much for joining us, Camila. We're going to close out for today, but we hope to have you back on for that excellent analysis. So
thank you. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Peace.
Great to see you too.
Man, I was just thinking of I have an elder, Baba Kidi Awadu. He always be saying like, you know where to find the people who named the Ohio River? I'd be like, where? He said you can't find them unless you go to museums. Then they're no longer here. And I think when Camila was talking about the response to this thing and actually understanding what the U.S. is and what it's about to do, and then what is that doing to the people of the world and then there's obviously some things around Black and brown that I would talk more about, but the moral is, it seems like when we think about what's possible, and I might have said this before, I don't think we think about like the negative was possible. Like sometimes we think like we always gonna be here and always whatever, but like I don't think like organizers or anybody like think about like, what's also possible. You might be the next Geronimo Pratt. Yeah, that might be. Or like you might not be fucking existing soon. Like I don't think that's the that's possible that people think about.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I hear that victory is certain and victory is inevitable in our spaces a lot, and I do believe that. But that doesn't, inevitable. Well, we know nothing in this life is inevitable. That's not dialectical. So there is a possibility that we achieve our goals and our political objectives and a social revolution, all those things. And there's also the possibility that we have nuclear warfare and climate collapse, right? So these are equally likely outcomes, and it's on the masses to drive us in one direction or another. We can only do our part, which is why I appreciate Camila explaining that our job is not to endlessly parse through and say we have the perfect analysis. Our job is not to talk about Venezuelan society as if we're experts. It's to explain right here where we are, what we can do. So to that extent, yes, these hour-long interviews can be a lot for some people. I know a lot of people who will enjoy it. For Camila, I'm here in Miami, so some of these clips are immediately going to be useful in community. Geechee, I know you were talking about a lot of people are, misled. So just greatly appreciate these. Greatly appreciate having the opportunity to ask questions for my community, because I know these are questions that other people have. With that, anything to close out? Oh, last thing about international law, when y'all kept talking, one of my favorite Malcolm quotes, I said the other one last week, is if white people passed meaningful laws, they wouldn't have to pass any more laws. Love that quote. Used it. My law professor, he didn't like it clearly, but I absolutely think that quote applies to everything we're dealing with here. It's the rhetorical ethic point you were talking about, but they are not passing things that they intend to run with, right? They're just putting rules on you and then going with whatever they need to get done. So that's my last takeaway. What we got going on this weekend, y'all?
So we couple things. We're planning this King PE celebration event for the seniors Monday.
Aww.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. They're them people funny. We've been having this internal study around the evolution and revolution of organizations. Like, again, but it's weird because the study is around like business and like studying different business, but like you can apply it to like orgs too. And we've been just having like really dope, deep, emergent conversations internally. So we're kind of working through that this weekend, more of that this weekend, but I'm really looking forward to kicking with the old people.
Yeah.
I'm speaking at an event this weekend. That's about it.
Got you. What's the event? You don't want people pulling up?
It's like a MLK Day of Action thing for youth about like what does like civil disobedience and like organizing in action actually look like, stuff like that.
That sounds dope. I would. We're getting Cornell West and Lauderhill, so I think I'd rather send people to your event.
What?
I told Geechee,
Huh?
I told Geechee earlier. I asked Kamala Harris about her impacts on imperialism today, and that was cool.
How'd that go? What'd she say?
No. Guess what she said. You guess first. What do you possibly think she said?
I imagine a lot of wine mom laughing awkwardly and shaking her head and then walking away. I mean, does she even? Those words scare her. Imperialism, like I feel like she'd hear that word and her brain turned off and the programming kicked in. So
I think they really be dumb on her on the internet. Like she laughs all the time. The lady was not laughing like that. She was kind of boring.
So here's this. You're wrong, but I actually guessed right. Now tell her what she said.
I hear you. I see you.
She talked about. She did say imperialism in her speech thing, and she did talk about how like she sees the impact of it now and like where the country is going towards. So she did actually say something about it.
Wait. You didn't put the word regret. She said. Didn't you tell me she said something about
regrets? Yeah, I asked her if she regrets it, and she said she regrets like some of the things that like have come of it, and how imperialism is like thriving now. But she talked about that in her speech thing. She talked about imperialism and stuff.
Yeah, this is the to a child. Are you sorry you did it or sorry you got caught? But glad.
But listen, even if I think that woman is definitely around some people and that party is doing the thing, that could be a ploy just to win. Because like I don't even think she understands. So that's a practice line to me.
Yeah.
Of course, in the moment, if you ask that question, if I'm about to get anything done, I'm gonna say that exact answer. Because now, especially if you're in the
I was telling Geechee earlier too.
Go ahead.
I was telling Geechee earlier too. I could tell like some of the lines she said, like she said them later on her moderation things. I was like, those are things that she said like a lot, but it was about leadership. I was asking her about Black leadership as like Black Caucus chair, and I'm the first Black woman Black Caucus chair that we've had. So that's what we were talking about. I talked about the imperialism thing. I talked about that, and she talked about like standing in your power. And she said that on the stage. She was like, "Oh, that's something that she says a lot." But the other question in the beginning question, she was thinking about it. Like she didn't just automatically respond because it took a very long time because we were doing like content creation stuff, and it took a very, very long time because she actually was talking to people. But I can tell what lines she says a lot and what lines she like doesn't say as much. But I do feel like she isn't. I think her and other like really famous politicians, especially, they don't even feel the pressure to be challenged or to think, more critically about stuff because people get so excited off the little things. I told Geechee, this one lady said, Kamala Harris said my name, and she was like crying. And I was like, the fuck? They gave her a card with your name on it. What are you talking about? Like, why are you so fanned out? And I think because of stuff like that, she never has to really say much of depth, actually. She doesn't have to do, we don't expect that much from her, which is why I ask more detailed questions, and other folks ask more detailed questions too. But people just get so fanned out over simple stuff that they don't even critique anything.
But I don't want you to underestimate your enemy either, though, because Kamala, it sounds like you think that she really feels the way, or she really is a thing, but not giving her.
I don't think that. I think that she doesn't do that because she's not expected to. Like no one expects that much. They're excited by simple stuff like her saying their name.
Because I think Geechee's pointing out the level of intent with which she creates that space. Because I agree with you. I just think that's very curated. They have security there. We saw this, right? You say anything pro-Palestine, you say, why are you sending bombs here? You ask her about a policy and you're seen as disruptive. She silences you with that liberal whiny tone that I hate.
They actually did not have. I was looking for the security. They did not have security in that.
And maybe that's the time we're in, or something. But best believe they
didn't really expect anything to happen because all they had was like because they must have been backstage because I actually was looking for that. I didn't see anybody except for backstage, but like in the actual Orpheum, it was like just Orpheum employees, and it was maybe 10 of them people. Like it wasn't a lot. So I think they also just don't expect people.
There's different security tactics that we can't even see sometimes. So
I was going to say that
like they didn't expect us to do anything for real because it was her Founders Day. It's a lot of AKAs. Like they wasn't really.
Amber, thank you for applying that context. Step back to our identity politics discussion before. Where do people's identities come from? The fact that you just said that is the AKAs, that it was a Founders Day situation. There you go. Yeah, they aren't expecting that because they're expecting people to be fanned out in that space. Like, no question. Same thing.
Fanned out is embarrassing. That white lady was so fanned out. I said, that's crazy.
White people,
I'm a star. What am I getting fanned out for about her?
But I think there's the K-Hive, the white liberal women who are attracted to that as well. But I also think the space in general of the AK for Founders Day. And yes, my mom was a Delta, comrades a Delta, and B&B Miami. Listen, love the Deltas. Shout out, Betty Shabazz, Delta, though they, I don't hear that too often.
Betty Shabazz was a Delta? That's cool.
I don't hear that mentioned much. But
did she talk about breaking barriers and getting caught by glass? No, she didn't mention that at all, actually.
But those spaces are specifically, for that camaraderie. You're my soror, so you're already seen as an ally. So they're not seen as an opposition. They're seen as friends in the space automatically. The space is
and there's several AKAs who pledged with Kamala who live in Memphis that I actually know. I knew some other stuff, and they were there yesterday too. So, yeah,
and they liked her. I'm assuming, right?
I mean, they went to Howard with her. They were online with her, so.
Right. Well, so there you. That's my. So I mean, first off, white presidents have this exact same thing. I'm not saying they don't. They have secret societies at Yale and all that. But the fanned out part. Sorry,
Amber, do you feel like you're being shouted at?
When?
By me and Lord right now.
No, what happened?
No, I just wanted to make sure because I don't want to make sure that I just want to make sure that you don't feel like there's or whatever because. If at least one person picked it up in the chat, I wanted to.
Amber would tell me. Oh, but
I agree, but
so yelling is my love language, but I should be wary of it. So if I'm ever interrupting or anything, Amber, let me know. But I was gonna say,
I understand what she's saying. I think that I automatically assume that people, depending on the person I'm talking to, is going to have a response to the whole Kamala Harris thing. I was very torn on like even talking about it for real because there aren't a lot of content creators. Like I was telling Geechee, there aren't a lot of content creators here in Memphis. It was like me and a girl from the Shade Room. Like that was it. So It's like either I could go and not get to talk to her about it or like ask her any questions, or I could not go because so many people just don't agree with her. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of stuff she did as a politician, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't want to ask questions. And my mama gonna want the picture because you know how Black middle-aged women are. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
go to get the little picture for her and send it to her so she can put it up in her house because that's how they are.
Yeah.
I feel like it balanced out for me to get asked my questions, and one, just the experience. I do think that like the questions are scripted to a point, but not super scripted. But I can tell that when she's speaking, there's specific type of point she want to get off. So she'll go off the script. Like she'll stop talking about answering the question and get off what she want to get off, and then she'll come back. And I was like, there must be specific talking points she's trying to get clips for, because she's off on a tangent, and then she'll come back to it. And I was like, interesting. Okay. But I didn't really film anything inside the thing other than like a few clips from my friends who couldn't go because they love her. They were like, annoyed, but they're really strict about like you have to be a content creator with so many followers and all this different stuff. And so it was really only like it was two of us and one person from out of town, my friend Elizabeth, who's from Memphis. So we were all together and got to like just ask her different things. But I think it's important to challenge people. Like if we never talk to someone who we don't agree with, we'll
Did I freeze or Amber?
I think Amber froze because I think even when we was talking that one or both of us might be freezing at times.
Oh no, okay. Amber is frozen.
hear me.
Oh wait, you're back. We can hear you, but your face is frozen. Wow, this is what I usually do.
I just say I think we just don't get to hear that, and it also aids in like the organizing we're doing, like knowing what people think.
Yeah, I agree. And Amber, I was gonna add one, yes, the photo just hides the contradiction with our people. Like, yes, I've talked to this person because again, this whole thing is like you're just this ultra leftist online, you don't talk to anybody. Clearly not. Be in the field. So
not
yes.
they got Amber.
So first thing, I think you already pointed out that there is a pre-security here. So the space is already curated, right? Because it's an AKA space. These are alliances.
You had to buy tickets. They just bought a
tickets, and then you have to have these certain qualifications. So that there's already a screening to a certain level. The second thing
I'm talking about for the meet and greet thing. So like for the regular event, anybody can buy tickets, but it was mostly a lot of AKAs who bought tickets. They bought like group sale tickets and shit. Right. I didn't pay for no ticket. They gave me a free ticket, a free meet and greet, a free book, everything. I didn't have to do none of that, and I wasn't going to. If I had to pay something, I wasn't going to be there.
Well, I wanted to shout you out for asking the question on imperialism in the first place that I know she wasn't expecting in that space. And then I wanted to, again, because we're celebrating 20 years of Black Agenda Report, and I consider Black Liberation Media a extension of a new generation of Black Agenda Report. I wanted to share this thing from Glenn Ford that really reminded me of your story and how it's very interesting when you get to ask these people these questions. So Glenn was in a similar situation to you many years ago, him and his comrade Bruce. And I just wanted to play that clip real quick for us to see, because I think it's directly related to what you did, and I think you passed his test. So I want to show everyone what he talked about real quick.
Individuals who deserve admiration. Yeah, Hugo Chavez.
Okay, first of all, yeah, the perfect timing. Glenn Ford shouted out Hugo Chavez. Perfect timing as his hero and inspiration. This is from his Big Think interview. It's just in 2012.
Can you turn the volume up?
Sure can. And describe an ethical dilemma you have faced.
And it involves Barack Obama. It's not a long story. In June of 2003, my team was working at blackcommentator.com. Every week, I would study the list of the Democratic Leadership Council. That's the right-wing corporate mechanism of the Democratic Party. I'd go to their membership list to see what Black politician they had recruited that week. In the first week in June of 2003, I went through my usual routine and discovered that Barack Obama was listed as a member of the DLC, the right wing of the Democratic Party. I was very excited, and I called my managing editor in in Atlanta, Bruce Dixon, to tell him about it. But before I could blurt out that Barack Obama was a member of the DLC, he said, Glenn, before you tell me that, let me tell you, I just went to Barack Obama's website, and he's taken down from his website his anti-war speech. It's not there anymore. So we both made a discovery the same day about Barack Obama, and we decided, since Bruce knew Barack Obama from Chicago, and since Obama was then ranked 4th in the Democratic senatorial primary race and wanted to talk to everybody, that we would confront him on this. We spent a month going back and forth. It's all on the record and the archives on the net, going back and forth with Barack Obama about his being listed as a member of the DLC. Why did he take his anti-war speech off of his campaign website? What was his position now on healthcare, on NAFTA, and on withdrawal from Iraq? We put him through the ringer. And finally, in the end, we gave him what we called a bright line test. If he could answer these questions on these 3 issue areas correctly, we would declare that whether or not he was in the DLC or not, he denied that he was, he should be or he should not be. Those questions were, if you are elected to the Senate, will you introduce legislation to withdraw from NAFTA? If you are elected to the Senate, will you introduce legislation for single-payer health care? If you are elected to the Senate, will you introduce legislation to withdraw immediately from Iraq? He then proceeded over a period of a week to fashion answers to that question. In the end, they were a fuzzy mishmash of non-answers. And Bruce Dixon and I had a decision to make. Were we going to pass him or fail him? We, at that time, did not want to be seen as the proverbial crabs in a barrel, people who are anxious when a brother's trying to climb up to, pull him back down. And so even though we agreed that he had flunked the Bright Lines test, that he was not a progressive, we declared that he had passed the test. That was a dilemma, and we failed our own test. I've never regretted a political decision as much as having passed Barack Obama when he should have failed the test.
Principle.
Yeah. So Amber, giving these new bright line tests to people, because that's exactly what you're doing in these spaces. Just wanted to shout you out, say you're walking in Glenn's footsteps, and then obviously we don't want to make his mistakes ever again. So keep putting pressure on these people.
Lord, I really appreciate you doing all that just now, because I feel like it illustrated what we all kind of were talking about. And where it wasn't that we were in any type of conflict or disagreement or whatever. It was literally like a couple different vantage points that actually all met. So thank you, Amber.
No, I don't think we were like in conflict. I think y'all do naturally challenge me or people in general, like, when you're talking to people, like it's a natural thing, but it didn't feel adversarial, and I can fight, so I wasn't scared.
I've been told by Big Boss, by Renee, we are workers co-op, y'all, no big bosses, but by our director, that there is a Patreon special at 11. So we are in overtime right now. I'm going to try and get some breakfast, and Geechee's got me wanting to have tea now. So go ahead, grab some tea, y'all. We have Patreon special Saturdays with Renee at 11. Again, subscribe to the Patreon if you haven't.
What's that song? Like the Mr. Lover?
Like, share, subscribe. Join us on Patreon if you haven't. You can also make super chat donations. I believe we actually had one. Almost missed it.
Yeah, we did.
Little $9.99. We very much
Curtis. We appreciate you.
Bill. So come back at 11. Check the Argument Blue. Check out our programming from earlier this week. Check out Black Alliance for Peace's campaign to move the games in their conversation about FIFA and what's been going on there. And we appreciate you. Peace, if you're willing to fight for it, as we say, as Jared says, and as Chairman Fred Hampton used to say.
Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you. Black Liberation Media.